Greater Good Radio. Connect, learn, heal, and grow.
How did this News Corp thing come about? Did you just cold call Rupert Murdoch, or people were trying to put the deal together? What happened in that?
Yeah, so interesting story, and there's been tons written about it, but in reality what happened was Rupert Murdoch woke up in sort of December of '04. The legend goes, and this I've just heard, that he was actually sick for a week or something with the flu. And he's not the type of guy that gets sick very often, so he was home with the flu and wasn't as mobile as he usually is, and consequently was online much more. And he's a smart guy. He had seen, like all the major media companies, television revenues coming down, newspaper revenues. Remember, News Corp has a huge newspaper. That's where they get a lion's share of their revenues, from the newspaper business, and even the movie business and radio also coming down. So he had seen it for a couple years, but it was really taking that week off and being forced to spend a lot of time online that he really realized, wow, I can see why today's youth watches TV for 25 minutes a day and spends an hour and 25 minutes a day online. Before that, it just didn't really resonate with him personally. So he saw that, he came out of there and he met with his internet guys, it's probably as soon as he got back in the office, and he said, guys, we got to do something much more major than we're doing. What News Corp was doing, which most of the big media companies were doing at the time, was taking their offline brands like Fox Sports and then launching foxsports.com and putting up the content, much of the same content, and trying to sell ads behind it. He realized, he's a brilliant guy, and I got to fortunately spend a lot of time with him during the sale and after the sale, but he rightfully realized that wasn't going to make them a leader in this new media space, that he had to be much more aggressive. So consequently, he met with the group, they brought in an outside consulting firm, and he said, I'm willing to spend roughly $1.5 billion over the next couple years buying some of the assets that we need. Because anytime, I think News Corp has something like 40,000 employees, so there's a certain culture that has. It's not realistic to think that a 40,000 person old media company is just going to be able to launch new media websites and be super successful, and he realized that. So consequently, he said, I'm willing to spend $1.5 billion and jumpstart our process. The timing was sort of right. MySpace was growing rapidly through January, through the summer of 2005. It got on News Corp's radar. It also got on Viacom's radar. Viacom started due diligence on Intermix. Remember, the one thing about being a public company is you're sort of for sale every day. People don't realize it, but our stock price was at 7 or 8, which was like a $400 million market cap, and anyone in the world can come buy the company basically for that. I mean, you have to make a deal with the company and the board of directors, but essentially a value is put on that company. So when these guys first started looking at the business, we of course welcomed them with open arms, and we said, okay, we'll start to meet, and we'll see if there's a fit and a cultural fit and if there's interest. So Viacom started the process. This is a long story, but I'll tell the short story. Is they are more traditional in the sense that they do tons of due diligence and have the heads of every Viacom division. Viacom is MTV, Viacom is Nickelodeon, Viacom is obviously a massive company in its own right. So they would more bring in the heads of those divisions, have them involved. Is this MySpace asset something we need, or is it something we can build? So they're going through that process. Meanwhile, you've got Rupert Murdoch, who, it's common knowledge, really runs News Corp and has control over News Corp. And when he says, we're going to go up here and take a right, that company goes up there and takes a right. So that's really what happened. Is News Corp got wind that the Viacom had started due diligence and had been a week or two into diligence. Murdoch said, I want to do a deal. What numbers are going to take? This number came about of $12, which is roughly $700 million to the shareholders. The board voted on it and said, okay, and they crammed through due diligence literally in about a 3.5 day period, where we were all sort of in one office floor in Century City for that entire time, and just going through all the massive amounts of information that you need to go through both sides. And we got there and announced the deal on Monday morning. And the interesting thing is that people don't realize today, everybody talks today about what a great deal News Corp got and how it's transformed their company and their business, which it has. But at the time, if you go back and look at the press for the first 3 months after the deal was announced, everybody said the old man's lost it. Murdoch's finally shown that he's out of it. He just paid $700 million, mainly for a site called MySpace, which had only been around at that time 18 months. And there certainly has been lots of internet stories of businesses that were purchased for $600 million because they were growing like this, and 8 months later, they're not the cool place to be anymore, and they're literally worth 10 million. So it looked on the surface, to outsiders at least, like this could be, one of those moves. But obviously for Murdoch and for us, really, the business has continued to grow, and News Corp has really done a great job at protecting the brand of MySpace and not putting their stamp on it, as well as really helping it grow internationally.
If you resonate with Greater Good Radio, please join our community at www.greatergoodradio.com, where you can get access to exclusive content and offerings. Hope to see you soon.